Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel Dhyani Classes. If you are watching my video for the first time, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So in today's video we will cover the chapter Glimpses of India Part 3 Tea from Assam, written by Arup Kumar Datta from class 10th CBSE. So let's get started. Let's talk about the author. Arup Kumar Datta is an Indian writer and journalist from Guwahati, Assam. He has written 16 books for adults and 17 adventure novels for young people. In 2014, he was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Honor by Association of Writers and Illustrators for Children. He has also won numerous awards including the Shankars Award in 1979, conferred to mark the International Year of the Child. He has been awarded the Civilian Award Padma Shri by Government of India in 2018. Tea from Assam is a very interesting and fruitful story written by Arup Kumar Datta, and there are two friends in the story named Pranjal and Rajveer. Pranjal's father is working in a large tea estate in Assam and he invited Rajveer for the summer vacation in Assam. During their journey by train, they have learnt and observed many things while travelling. So let's begin with the first paragraph of the third chapter, Tea from Assam. Chai garam garam chai, a vendor called out in a high-pitched voice. So here the narrator is saying that when they reached the railway station, there was a chai vendor and he was selling tea, and he was calling people by saying chai garam garam chai in a high-pitched voice. That means his voice was higher than usual or high frequency in voice. And further he says, he came up to their window and asked the chai sap, "Give us 2 cups, Pranjal said. So here the narrator is saying that as soon as the chai seller saw these boys sitting near a window, then he ran towards the window and asked if they would like to buy some freshly made hot tea. So Pranjal saw him and decided to have 2 cups of hot tea and asked him to give us 2 cups of tea. They sipped the steaming hot liquid. Almost everyone in their compartment was drinking tea too. So as they bought the tea from the vendor and started sipping freshly made hot tea, and everyone in their compartment was drinking tea too. Do you know that over 80 crore cups of tea are drunk every day throughout the world? Rajveer said. So here, as everyone in their compartment were drinking tea, so Rajveer told Pranjal that do you know 80 crore cups of tea are drunk every day throughout the world. That means people are consuming 80 crore cups in the world every single day. We exclaimed Pranjal, tea really is very popular. So after hearing this, that 80 crore cups of tea are consumed every single day throughout the world, so Rajveer got surprised and exclaimed "View" and said, really tea is very popular in the world and most of the people would like to tea twice and thrice throughout the day as well. The train pulled out of the station. Pranjal buried his nose in his detective book again. So here the train pulled out of the station. That means the train started moving from the station. And as soon as the train started moving, Pranjal started reading his detective book. So what do you mean by buried his nose? That means busy in reading a book or some other stuff. Rajveer too was an ardent fan of detective stories, but at the moment he was keener on looking at the beautiful scenery. So here his friend Rajveer was also an ardent fan of detective stories. That means he was also passionate about reading detective stories, but at the moment he looked outside from the train, he saw beautiful scenery and that was more interesting rather than reading a detective book. That means Rajiv chose to enjoy the beauty of the nature or its scenic beauty at that moment. It was green everywhere. Rajveer had never seen so much greenery before. So here he is saying that it was the first time in his life when he had seen such a beautiful greenery, and says there was a greenery all around that he had never seen before because he was unfamiliar with this place. Then the soft green paddy fields gave way to tea bushes. That means after soft green paddy fields, then they reached the tea bushes. That means the tea plantation of an estate. So what do you mean by paddy fields? That means a flooded fields where rice or other crops are usually harvested or grown. And further he says it was a magnificent view. That means he was enjoying beauty of the nature and said it was really astonishing and amusing view of the tea estate. Against the backdrop of densely wooded hills, a sea of tea bushes stretched as far as the eye could see. So here he is saying that against the backdrop of densely wooded hills, that means beyond a large hill that was covered with woods and trees, a sea of tea bushes stretched as far as the eye could see. That means as far as he was able to see, only tea bushes he was able to see, and a large area was covered with tea plantation. And that's why the narrator is calling this tea state a sea of tea bushes. Further he says, dwarfing the tiny tea plants were tall sturdy shade trees, and amidst the orderly row of bushes bushily moved doll-like figures. So here he saw different types of tea bushes such as dwarfing and tiny. That means there were small and tall, both kinds of tree that gave shade, and amidst the orderly row of bushes bushily moved doll-like figures. That means in the middle he saw tall and strong trees were there orderly in a row, and that was moving because of the wind, and it looked like as if they were doll figures. Further he says, in the distance was an ugly building with smoke billowing out of tall chimneys. So here, while traveling by the train, Rajveer saw an ugly building, and maybe it was the place where the leaves were collected, and he could see the smoke coming out from the chimneys. And further he says, hey, a tea garden, Rajveer cried excitedly. So he was so happy and excited to see this tea estate and tea plantation, and cried out loud, it was a tea garden. Pranjal, who had born and brought up on a plantation, didn't share Rajveer's excitement. So here Pranjal did not pay attention to Rajveer, as he had seen all of it during his childhood, as well as Pranjal was born and brought up in Assam. So large estate of tea plantation is not new for him, so he was not excited at all. Oh, this is tea country now, he said. Assam has the largest concentration of plantations in the world. So here Pranjal accepted his excitement and said, Assam has the largest concentration of plantations in the world. That means Assam is the only state where a large number of tea plantations found in the world. And as we know that the narrator called this land a sea of tea bushes, and further he said, you will see enough gardens to last you a lifetime. That means you will see such huge plantations more than this across the Assam state. Further he says, I have been reading as much as I could about tea, Rajveer said. So right after that, Rajveer said he has been reading as much as I could about tea and its plantations and gathering information about tea. No one really knows who discovered tea, but there are many legends. What legends? So he said that nobody knows who discovered the tea, but there are several theories, and one of which about legends. So after hearing theory and legends, immediately Prajol asked what legends. That means he wanted to know brief story behind the discovery of tea in Assam. Well, there is the one about Chinese emperor who always boiled water before drinking it. So here Rajveer started telling a tale to Pranjal about the Chinese emperor who had a habit of drinking boiled water and then drank it. One day a few leaves of the twigs burning under the pot fell into the water, giving it a delicious flavor. So one day when he was boiling the water, suddenly a few leaves of twig burning under the pot fell into the water. That means the small branches of tea bushes were burning under the boiling pot, and a few leaves and twig accidentally fell into the boiling water, and it gave delicious flavor to Imperial. And from that day people started using tea leaves, or in this way the Chinese Imperial had discovered the tea. It is said they were tea leaves. That means whatever twigs or leaves fell into the water and gave delicious flavor. So in this way it is said that they were tea leaves, and then tea leaves came into the being as a tea. Tell me another, scoffed Pranjal. So here Pranjal said, tell me another story behind origin of the tea. So what do you mean by scoffed here? That means asking something in a mocking manner or in a funniest manner. Further he says, we have an Indian legend too. Buddhidharma, an ancient Buddhist ascetic, cut off his eyelids because he felt sleepy during meditations. So here he said that there is another story behind the tea, and in this story we have an Indian legend too. That means another story was about an Indian legend. And further he says, Buddhidharma, an ancient Buddhist ascetic. So here he is talking about one of the Indian legend named Buddhidharma, and he was Buddhist ascetic. That means Buddhist yogi or a sage, and he cut off his eyelids because he felt sleepy during meditations. So here he used to feel sleepy while meditation, so in order to remain awakened, he cut off his eyelids. Further he says 20 plants grew out of the eyelids. So here he cut off his eyelids and threw them away, and from those eyelids some plants grew up, and people calling those plants as tea plants. The leaves of these plants when put in hot water and drunk vanished sleep. That means consuming these leaves with boiling hot water helped in get rid of sleep. So in this way there was another story behind the origin of tea plants in Assam. Tea was first drunk in China, Rajvi added, as far back as 2700 BC. In fact, words such as tea, chai and chini are from Chinese. So here Rajvi also highlighted the fact that tea was first drunk in China as far back as 2700 BC. So what do you mean by BC here? That means before the Christian era. And further he says, in fact, words such as tea and chai and chini are from Chinese. That means all these words such as chai and chini have originated from the Chinese language. Tea came to Europe only in the 16th century and was drunk more as medicine than as beverage. So here he is saying that the tea was first drunk in Europe in 16th century as a medicine and then as commercial drink such as other soft drinks. And further he says the train clattered into Mariani junctions. That means finally the train reached into Mariani junction. So what do you mean by clattered here? That means making continuous rattling sound. The boys collected their luggage and pushed their way to the crowded platform. So here the train reached the Mariani junction and they got down and gathered their luggage, and the station was full of crowd, but they managed to collect their luggage along with them. Pranjol's parents were waiting for them. So Pranjol's parents had come to receive both of them. Soon as they were driving towards Dekavari, the tea garden managed by Pranjol's father. So they came out from the railway station and headed towards Dekavari, and further he says the tea garden managed by Pranjol's father. That means Dekavari is the place where his father worked in a tea garden. An hour later, the car veered sharply off the main road. So after 1 hour, the car veered sharply off. That means the car changed the direction to begin to go in wrong direction. And further he says they crossed a cattle bridge and entered Dekavari tea estate. That means later on they crossed the cattle bridge and entered the tea estate in Dekavari. So what do you mean by cattle bridge here? That means the bridge that allows the smooth passage of walker or who travels by foot or other lightweight vehicles without any problem. On both sides of gravel road were acre upon acre of tea bushes, all neatly pruned to the same height. So here he could see dense bushes on both sides of the gravel road. So what do you mean by gravel road here? That means unpaved or unstructured or full of dirt road, and he saw a vast area of land was covered with tea bushes and bushes were cut to the same height. Group of tea pluckers with bamboo baskets on their backs wearing plastic arpan were plucking the newly sprouted leaves. So here he is saying that he saw many workers who were plucking the tea leaves from the plant and tea bushes with bamboo basket on their back. That means they carried a bamboo basket and were plucking the tea leaves and put the leaves into the bamboo basket. And further he says wearing plastic arpans were plucking the newly sprouted leaves. That means on the field he saw the tea pluckers wearing kind of plastic protective garment called arpan and carrying the bamboo basket in order to pluck the newly freshly sprouted leaves. Pranjol's father slowed down to allow a tractor pulling a trailer load of tea leaves to pass. So here on their way, Pranjol's father slowed down the car and allowed the tractor to pass because the tractor was lifting a heavy load of tea leaves from the tea plant. This is the second flush or sprouting period, isn't it, Mr. Barua? Rajbir asked. It lasts from May to July and yields the best tea. So here on seeing this, Rajbir drew attention to his knowledge and said that this is the second sprouting period of the year that lasts from May to July and produces the best tea leaves. You seems to have done your homework before coming, Pranjol's father said in surprise. So here Pranjol's father got surprised to see Rajvir's knowledge on tea plants and said, it seems you have done a lot of research on tea before coming. Yes, Mr. Berua, Rajbir admitted, but I hope to learn much more while I am here. So in a great enthusiasm, Rajbir said, yes, Mr. Berua, I would like to learn more about the tea while I am here, and that means he will try to learn more about tea during his stay in Assam. So this is the end of the chapter. I hope you like the video. For more informative videos, do subscribe my channel. Hit the bell icon so that I get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So thank you so much for watching once again. Stay safe, stay healthy.